What's up, guys? Doc here. Just wanted to give you guys a glimpse into one of my favorite games to play, which is Magic the Gathering. I play mostly the Commander format, which is 100 card singleton. You pick one legendary creature, which mine for this deck is Varina, Lich Queen. And then the colors in the mana cost, or that are printed on the card, determine the colors of cards you can use throughout your deck. So mine is considered Esper, which is blue, black, and white. It's a 3-color deck, 100 cards. To start things off, I have a mana base of 36, which is comprised of 19 basic, 6 swamps, 5 plains, 8 islands, and then I have 17 non-basic lands. Those are my specialties. They have extra abilities and stuff. Off to the side, I've got some Persephone tokens. These are actually from G&D custom cards. They're Greek gods and goddesses collection. It's Persephone with Cerberus. I have all of the tokens for my mummies off of Amonkhet block. And then I have my emblems for Liliana, which include a custom Liliana Defiant Necromancer emblem from G&D Custom again. Liliana is going to be brought up a lot in this because I have this currently set up in the mana curve. As you can see, it kind of peaks around the 4 mana, including my commander. But I currently am running 29 creatures, 6 enchantments, 6 instants, 6 sorceries, 7 artifacts, and 10 planeswalkers. Now, out of those 10 planeswalkers, all of them are Liliana, different versions of her. The only one that I do not have is Liliana of the Veil. I also have 2 creatures that flip. I have Runetail, Kitsune Ascendant, that flips into the enchantment Runetail's Essence. And then I have Liliana Heretical Healer, which flips into Liliana Defiant Necromancer. So that's pretty much the basics of the deck. There is going to be a deck list in the description, but I want to break down some of the mechanics of this deck. Now that we're in the wonderful world of voiceovers here, I want to start off by, again, iterating that this deck has 10 planeswalkers. All of them are Lilianas. It's mainly because of the fact that Liliana is so versatile for a black deck, especially one that needs zombies. Like, for example, you have your Liliana Death Wielder that brings all creature cards from the graveyard to the battlefield. You've got your Death Wielder that creates a zombie creature token, and then you mill, which boosts your graveyard. You have your Dreadhorde General that just creates tokens. And then the biggest one that is really important to have with these are the 4 that create the emblems. So you've got your Liliana, the Last Hope, that creates the X2/2 black zombie creature tokens, where X is 2 plus the number of zombies you control. So essentially, it's almost like an Endless Ranks of the Dead kind of emblem. You've got your Liliana Defiant Necromancer, where whenever a creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the end step. Your Waker of the Dead, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control and it gains haste. So especially if you manage to get rid of a big creature on the other side, that really works. And then, of course, Liliana of the Dark Realms is basically a mana ramp emblem, where your swamps now tap for 4 black instead of just a single 1 black. So really all of these tend to work, especially given the fact that they are all so close together within the mana curve. So when you get 3 mana on the field, I could drop Heretical Healer or I could drop Last Hope. And then I get 1 more mana, so now I've unlocked Dark Realms, I've unlocked Untouched by Death, and then I get 1 more mana, so there's Vest, Death's Majesty, Necromancer, and so on and so forth. So basically, once you hit that 3 mana, you've basically unlocked Liliana for the game. The next set that I wanted to point out are the mummies. So this started off in its initial conception was a zombie tribal deck, so it was all zombies. But then when Amonkhet came out, I really wanted to move into using the mummies because it created that graveyard recursion as well as the embalm feature. It's something that's really really interesting of a mechanic, to where you can cast it from your graveyard and then it becomes a zombie. So basically, as soon as I cast these, or I discard them during my discard phase, or I sack them or whatever, then I have a way to beef these up with my zombie beef cards. And the biggest thing that I want to make sure I have in here is my Embalmer's Tools, because that creates all creature cards in my graveyard cost 1 less to activate for activated abilities. And then I can tap an untapped zombie that I control and make somebody mill the top card of his or her graveyard. And the thing is that Embalm technically is an activated ability. I've yet to have this disputed by a judge. So that Embalmer's Tool will allow me to pay 1 less. So, for example, Temet, Vizier of Noctamoon, would actually be like, it would only be 4 mana instead of being the 5. And that really comes in handy, especially if you're finding yourself, kind of screwed on mana. But with cards like Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and Cabal Coffers, you really shouldn't end up getting mana screwed, especially since those turn all your lands into swamps, and then your Cabal Coffers, you pay 2, which you can do off of Soul Ring, and suddenly you have 1 black for every swamp you control. So essentially, that's a really cheap way to get boosted land. Next set is just a quick little 2 card that I noticed. It's one of the little engines that I don't really think about all the time, which is Noxious Ghoul with Zombie Apocalypse. The thing is that Noxious Ghoul, whenever it comes into play or another zombie comes into play, all non-zombies get -1/-1 until the end of turn. So essentially that could be a little blocker killer. And then you have Zombie Apocalypse, which brings all zombie creature cards from my graveyard onto the battlefield tapped and then destroy all humans. So, you could even tie this in with your Endless Ranks of the Dead, with your Army of the Damned, with From Under the Floorboards, things like that, which I don't have From Under the Floorboards in this deck anymore, but I used to. And it became to the point where I would have Noxious Ghoul on the field, and all of a sudden I'm dropping 13 zombies. Well, congrats. All your creatures now have -13, -13. So that's a really powerful little combo to have in there. Next up are what are called the Zombie Lords. This is where a lot of the value other than Liliana comes in. All of these creatures have that extra beef for zombies. Like, you've got your Undead War Chief, which gives all your zombies get +2/+1, and they cost 1 less to cast. You've got Graph Harvest, which gives everybody Menace. You've got your Death Baron, which gives skeletons and other zombies that +1/+1. You've got your Shepherd of Rot, which you can easily tap it, and each player will lose 1 life for each zombie in play. So essentially, that's kind of a double-edged sword to strike with, but that's kind of desperation, but it beefs up this deck. Your Cemetery Reaper is your other zombies you get +1/+1. Risen Executioner is other zombies get +1/+1. Again, Lord of the Accursed, all other zombies get +1/+1. And Bad Moon, all black creatures in play get +1/+1. So, if you think about it, the best thing about having like the Death Baron, Cemetery Reaper, Risen Executioner, and Lord of the Accursed is that if you have all 4 of those on the field, those 4 are guaranteed to have +3/+3, while everything else is getting +4/+4. So it essentially it keeps you from running into having that one that doesn't get the beef, but they all ended up getting beefed up. The next up is something I noticed too when I was looking through the deck, is that I have a neat little thing with tokens. So Varina Lich Queen, I can exile 2 cards from my graveyard and create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. And then, of course, Army of the Damned, you get 13 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Endless Ranks of the Dead. Beginning of your upkeep, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens on the battlefield. X is half the number of zombies you control rounded down. So those play right into, you've got Anointer Priest, where whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. You've got Binding Mummy. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield, you can tap target artifact or creature. So that can stop somebody from hitting like Temple Bell or a Bauble or Sensei's Divining Top. And then Anointed Procession, if an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many. So essentially, if you have Anointed Procession out and you drop Army of the Damned, you're not getting 13 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, you're getting 26. So that's a really quick way, if you can tutor into those with Diabolical Tutor, or if you want to tweak this deck list and throw in like Increasing Ambition or Vampiric Tutor, then you have a really easy way of just flooding the board with dudes. And then the big one, this is the one that everybody, it's a little convoluted and it can be done multiple ways. There's no single way to run this combo, but basically I call it the annoying corpse. So first off is you want to have Rooftop Storm out. That's going to give all your zombies, their converted mana cost now changes to 0. You don't have to pay into the color for them. It's literally, you can just drop them from your hand or pull them out of the graveyard. Unless it's like with Risen Executioner where it costs +1 more for each creature card in your graveyard. So then you're going to want Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler is a really easy card that people tend to overlook. It can't block, and you can cast it from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. And pretty much all of this deck, aside from the Embalm creatures, are zombies. So you're always going to be able to cast Gravecrawler from the graveyard so long as it's like turn 2 or further. But what ends up happening is if Gravecrawler dies, you can just, at sorcery speed, bring Gravecrawler back and just not pay anything into it. So then the next thing you're going to need is a sacrifice outlet. With this deck, I have a Grimgrin Corpseborn, where it enters tapped and doesn't untap, but I can sacrifice a creature, untap Grimgrin, but a +1/+1 counter on him. I've got Phyrexian Altar, where I can sacrifice a creature, add 1 mana of any color to my mana pool. And then I have Altar of Dementia, where I can sacrifice a creature, and I can choose a player to put that number of cards equal to the creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. The reason you want the sack outlet is you actually really don't want a whole lot for that card's effect, because what you want is the next set, which is to have either Wayward Servant or Diregraph Captain out, or you can have both, because honestly, whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent's going to lose a life and you're going to gain a life. If Diregraph Captain is on the field, anytime a zombie you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life. You just don't gain that life. So when you look at it, Rooftop Storm makes all your zombies free. Gravecrawler is now basically a free card to drop at sorcery speed. If you sacrifice it, say, to Phyrexian Altar and just generate, 1 black, if you've got Diregraph out, as soon as that Gravecrawler hits the graveyard, boom, you've pinged everybody, or you've pinged 1 person for 1 life. So then, if you have Wayward Servant out as well, drop Gravecrawler for free, sorcery speed, and now everybody loses a life, you gain 1 life. Wash, rinse, repeat, infinite combo. Now, this even works too if you don't have some of the pieces together. Like, if you don't have Rooftop Storm, but you have Phyrexian Altar, sacrifice Gravecrawler to the altar, generate 1 black, and then when Gravecrawler comes from the graveyard back to the battlefield, pay that 1 black from Phyrexian Altar. So you're not tapping any of your other mana, and you can keep that to use that for counters, or basically to pay for those counters that say, unless this controller pays X mana. And it makes the deck stupid powerful. I try not to immediately go for this. In fact, it's the main reason I used to run all of the black tutors. I used to run Diabolic Tutor, Increasing Ambition, Diabolic Revelation, Vampiric Tutor, and it just got to the point where I was always so tempted to just tutor for my tutors so that I could tutor for my combo. And it made the game really not that much fun for me or for the people I was playing with. So essentially I sat down and looked through the deck and decided, let's be more fun with this. Let's make it harder to get the combo, which is why I started throwing in the extra creatures. I threw in some of the token generation, and I threw in the Lilianas. That makes it harder for me to get to my combo, and I have to think a little bit more during the game. Now, the deck list is going to be down in the description, and I'm actually going to put it up on screen here as well. TCG Player actually has this priced out to about $528 for all of the versions and foils that I have in this deck, mainly because you've got cards like Cavern of Souls in here, you've got Cabal Coffers, of course the Lilianas, and some of the higher value cards, especially with the way the meta has been shifting with Standard, Historic, and Pioneer. So it's a bit hefty. I've actually been working on this deck since I started playing Commander in around 2016. So I've been working on this deck for 4 years, and this is the step that we've gotten it to, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and yeah, if you guys like this, let me know, and we will do another Docs deck tech. So until next time, guys, be good to yourselves and be good to others. I'll see ya.